Hello, this is Mr. Chabry, and we're here with another narrated Pokemon battle. So this is going to be a battle against LazilyAmbitious, and this is going to be an OU battle. So looking at my opponent's team, it's clear that my opponent is going to be bringing a rain team. We have 4 water types, Greninja, the Qwilfish, Pelipper, and Mega Swampert. And we've also got a Ferrothorn, which also really likes the rain since that dampens fire type moves. And my opponent's also got a Tapu Koko, so that's also something that can really benefit from the rain. I'm going to lead with the Lando, as my opponent's going to lead with the Greninja, and this is a really bad matchup for me. So I'm going to hard switch into my Tangrowth, and my opponent's actually going to go for a Water Shuriken, and of course, Tangrowth is not going to care about that Water Shuriken at all. Lando would not have liked it, but we have our beautiful, beautiful Tangrowth. So now Pelipper is going to come in. This thing is going to go ahead, set up the rain, and that's going to be a problem for me, especially if that Swampert comes in at any time. The thing is, this is actually one of my first times battling a Qwilfish, so I don't know exactly what the Qwilfish does at this point. Of course, this is an OU team, but I don't see Qwilfish that often. So I'm kind of confused what it's going to do, and as you're going to see in this battle, it does a lot. So now I'm going to go into Heatran. Heatran does nothing in this. Of course, it would be good for the Ferrothorn, but so many things hurt Heatran a lot. So I'm going to go into Heatran, expecting the Hurricane, as my opponent's going to U-turn out, bring in the Swampert, and it's clear that this is a Mega Swampert. I'm going to go Tangrowth. I do not want to stay in with Heatran. Like I said, Heatran would be pretty nice for that Ferrothorn, and that's what I'm hoping to keep it around for. So now this Swampert is going to Mega Evolve and go for a substitute. So that's honestly the worst possible thing for me, because this thing is now behind a substitute, and it's got Ice Punch. It's going to hurt Tangrowth pretty badly. Tangrowth still takes it pretty decently, but this thing is behind a substitute, so it has a free Ice Punch again if it wanted to. Of course, it won't take out Tangrowth at this point, since we saw it didn't quite take it down to half. Plus, we got some leftover recovery. So my opponent's actually going to swap out the Swampert and go into this thing, the Ferrothorn. And Ferrothorn takes a lot of hits from this Tangrowth. Ferrothorn's a very bulky Pokemon. It's really hard to take out, and this thing is going to be a problem for me if I don't take it out. So now I'm going to switch into my Mew. This is more of a defensive Mew here, and this thing's actually going to go for the Stealth Rocks. This Mew does have Defog, so we can easily defog away these Stealth Rocks, and that's what I'm going to do. I was expecting the Stealth Rocks, and that was a pretty nice prediction on my side, I guess. But we get rid of that, but we're going to lose our item. But Mew doesn't care that much. Mew is a very bulky Pokemon, as you see there. It takes that pretty nicely. And I'm going to actually Will-O-Wisp this thing. If I can get some sort of chip damage or some sort of reliable damage on this thing, that'll help me out. Of course, this thing's going to go for a Leech Seed, so that's not really great for me at all. So now it's going to get a little bit of that Leech Seed health back. Of course, that's going to negate the burn that's just been put on it. It's going to slowly lose health, but gain it back, so that burn's really not doing much at this point. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and Roost. If I can keep my Mew pretty close to full health, I'll feel pretty safe about that. And this thing's going to Leech Seed again, expecting the switch. Of course, like I said, Leech Seed and then burn damage, they're going to negate each other, so it's going to basically stay on the same level of health. But now my opponent's going to switch out the Ferrothorn and bring Pelipper back in. Of course, this rain is actually going to hurt me a lot, because my opponent's got a really good team that works with rain. So I'm going to go ahead and Will-O-Wisp here, expecting a switch, as that's actually pretty nice. But Pelipper is more of a special attacker anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. And this Leech Seed's going to sap some more health from us. Unfortunately, this thing could hurt anything pretty hard. But I'm going to have to switch out here. I can't stay in. I'm going to go Tangrowth. This could be a risky play, especially if my opponent goes Hurricane here. But my opponent's actually going to go U-turn and swap out. So now the U-turn has been provided, and we're going to see what comes in, and it's going to be the Qwilfish. So like I said earlier, this thing is going to do a lot of damage to me. At this point, I have no idea what Qwilfish does. I've never faced one in OU, so I'm kind of confused. I know they're usually defensive, but I don't know what they do in OU. But as we see, this thing has Swords Dance. I now have a clue of what they probably do. They have Swift Swim, Swords Dance. It's going to destroy my team. So we're going to take a nasty liquidation. Heatran does not take that at all, especially in the ring, especially from +2. We go down. So now Qwilfish is looking to do a lot of damage. I'm going into Greninja here, and this thing actually outspeeds me thanks to the Swift Swim. And we're going to lose Greninja there to a Poison Jab. Water Shuriken probably wouldn't have done that much. I don't even think I've got Water Shuriken on this set. But now I'm going to go into Mew. I'm hoping to find something that can take a hit and do some damage back to this thing. So I got my Mew here. Of course, the Rain, the +2 attack is doing a lot of damage, and we lose Mew right there. So we're not doing very good. I'm going Lando now, hoping to lower this thing's attack. I know Lando's not going to live a liquidation at all. Of course, especially since Mew went down to liquidation, Lando's not going to live liquidation. So I have Lando there. I'm going to swap back into Tangrowth. I'm expecting that liquidation. Hoping that this Qwilfish can be stopped somehow. And we take a nasty liquidation. Of course, Tangrowth takes that pretty nicely, but we get the defense drop. So that means Tangrowth is not going to live another liquidation. So I'm going to have to make a risky play here. Go into Lando. Of course, my opponent could easily just go for another liquidation and get the nice KO on my Tangrowth. And that's what my opponent does. Go for the liquidation. I do have Lando here, and Lando will go down to that. Of course, this thing is now back to base attack. So I'm hoping that will help me out in the long run. And the rain has finally stopped. So I'm going to go Pinsir here. I'm hoping that I can probably set up and try to go sweep back in the opposite direction now. Like I said, I don't know what Qwilfish does. I know it has Liquidation, Swords Dance, Poison Jab. I don't know what that fourth move would be on this thing. So here I'm going to just go for a Swords Dance, hoping that I can live anything this thing goes for. And this is probably one of the biggest mistakes of the game, because this thing just explodes on my face. And that will take down the Pinsir. So we lose really the only hope at turning this entire game around at this point. We lose our Pinsir, and I'm very sad, but now that just leaves our pitiful Tangrowth, and Tangrowth is not going to be able to reverse sweep or do any damage or do anything to help me out at this point. Because, yeah, it's a Tangrowth, and my opponent does have the Ferrothorn, and does have a few things that could scare me out. I do have Tangrowth, my poor Tangrowth, and my opponent's going to just U-turn. There's not really a reason to stay in, and go into the Koko, which happens to be the Tapu Koko. It's going to get the Electric Surge up, but I don't really know if it matters at this point. I'm going Giga Drain. Of course, Ferrothorn doesn't care about Giga Drain. There's no way I can win this. But we're going to play it out. I always have to play it out, and we're going to see this animation of the special Z move that each of the Tapus share, and that is the Guardian of Alola. Of course, we're going to do the little spinneroony thing here, because I don't know if this is going to be caught by the YouTube little copyright status thing. It's where certain Z moves do that. I don't understand why the Pokemon Company has it set up like that, but we're going to do the spinneroony. And now we see Tangrowth, of course, it's going to go down to 75% of what it had, because that's what that move does. It's a huge animation just for a fixed amount of damage. It's kind of like Seismic Toss. Seismic Toss, it makes you think it's going to be a huge, but it does fixed amount of damage. So now Tangrowth is going to take a Thunder. Of course it can take a Thunder, but it doesn't matter at this point. Even if I take out Tapu Koko, Ferrothorn is a problem. Tangrowth doesn't really have much for that in the long run. And, of course, Greninja comes in. This thing could easily have Ice Beam and just finishes off at this point. My opponent got some chip damage there to make sure that our Tangrowth is not going to be a problem for him. And he finishes it off with a Dark Pulse. So, that was a really good game there. Of course, I now know what Qwilfish does in OU. It destroys things completely. I've never faced one before this point. and I was mistakenly wrong about what sets it would run. I was thinking more defensive, but as soon as I saw that Swords Dance, I was like, yeah, this thing's probably got Swift Swim. It's going to destroy me. I wasn't expecting the explosion either. I guess that's bad on my part, because I know it gets explosion, but I didn't expect it to go for it, because, like I said, I have no idea at this point what the Qwilfish did. I've never seen it in OU. I've seen it in lower tiers, but anyway, if you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you in the next Pokemon video.